Honestly, another honest moment in front of the camera. I have filmed this video like 7-8 different times, and I always stop after like 7 to 8 minutes and I go, I really can't make this video. And it's not even that it's like emotional for me or difficult for me to talk about. I just feel almost tired of talking about it, because when I first came out of the closet when I was 14 years old, I talked about it a lot. I made it a point to let people know that I was queer. And now that I'm 18, I'm so much more than queer. Like, I'm happy that I'm gay and trans, but I'm so much more than that, and I don't have to let everybody know, and I can keep it to myself if I want to, and I don't have to only be seen as that. And so I'm reluctant to make this video because I've already talked about it so many times when I was younger. And at this point, I'm just like, well, I'm done talking about it. Like, people know already, and I'm done talking about it. But it is Pride Week on Our Remains, and also it's Pride Month. And this is the time that you start talking about yourself and you start making it a point, because you want awareness and you want people to know that they're not alone, and that there's a lot of people out there that are gay, trans, anywhere on that rainbow flag. I'm gonna try my best to make this video and not stop making it and then be like, do I really have to talk about my coming out story again and come out again? But I'm gonna do it because somebody out there who hasn't figured out everything like how I was when I was younger is gonna need to see maybe someone like me and go, okay, that person exists and they're okay, I can be myself. So let me try, okay? I'm sorry if this video is long or strangely explained. I'm just trying my best to bring awareness to those who are trans and gay and queer and anything like that. So my name is Elliot. I'm part of Our Remains, and I upload every Wednesday, and I am a transgender male, and I am also gay, meaning I like boys. To be more specific, well, we can get really specific. Androromantic, which means that I'm romantically attracted to masculine people, meaning you can be male, but you can also be non-binary or agender or gender fluid, as long as you, for the most part, 70%, 80%, represent yourself as a male. Wow, how specific. And I'm also gray asexual, meaning I experience little to no sexual attraction, but it is still possible for me to experience it. And wow, how specific. To be very general, I'm just gay. To get to this point of being a trans male who isn't completely masculine, who's okay with expressing themselves any way they want, even if it means being a little feminine, even if it means being a little gay, it took me a long time, because when I first came out as transgender in the 9th grade when I was 14 years old, I made it a point to be as masculine as possible. And when I did that and I went out in public and I noticed I was still getting misgendered, or I went out in public in school and I got called offensive names, I stopped completely. I shut myself out, because when I figured out I was trans, which was in the 9th grade, thanks to the overwhelming amount of awareness being brought in the internet and in public, where you started to realize that different people exist and that your feelings are actually not only your own. There's other people who feel just like you, and this is who they are, and that may be the case for you. When I figured all of that out, I felt really happy, because give you a little backstory, ever since I was a kid I was different. A lot of people say this in their coming out videos, but ever since I was a kid I was different. I did a lot of things that stereotypical girls do not do. However, that is not the sole reason why I figured out I was trans. Just because I liked action figures, Xbox, RuneScape, being outside, getting dirty in the mud, stuffed animals, art, not really Barbies, not really the color pink, not really giving a shit about how I dressed or how I looked, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna grow up and, realize that I'm a boy. It wasn't like that. It was more a very gradual and slow process, especially in my family, where I don't even know one queer cousin, and I have a lot of cousins. It was hard for me to figure it out because I had no other way of doing so unless it was for the communities on the internet that were bringing awareness to people who do exist around the world and sharing that information. If it wasn't for that, I would still be very confused, very depressed, and very unsettled within myself. So when I got into middle school and I hit puberty, I started getting a lot of dysphoria. And I didn't know what I was experiencing was dysphoria, but when I was a kid, I was very clear to my mother that I would never experience puberty. I was like, it's not gonna happen to me. I'm not gonna have kids, and it's just not gonna happen. I'm just saying that right now. And my mom told, like, she would laugh and be like, of course it's gonna happen. You say that now, but it's going to happen. But I was really convinced that it wouldn't happen because I didn't want it to. I really, really, really did not want it to. It's not that I didn't want to grow up. I just did not want to be a girl. And I didn't know how to properly express that except by saying, I'm not gonna hit puberty. And then when I did in middle school, I got a lot of dysphoria. And I kept trying to figure out who I was. I kept trying to fit in, and I went through a lot of different phases within a very short amount of time, going back and forth between really girly, between sporty, between emo, between this and this and that. And it doesn't seem like the biggest deal, but it was a huge deal to me because not being able to figure out who I was meant that I was constantly depressed. I had really low self-esteem in terms of my personality because I didn't know how to express myself as a female. It just never made sense to me, but I wanted it to make sense, so I made it a point to try. And that went on all through middle school, and in 8th grade I got diagnosed with depression, and then my anxiety disorder, which I've had forever, which has to do with a phobia and has nothing to do with my gender. Just a weird phobia that I've had for a long time. When I got into high school and I saw people being openly queer, it really opened my eyes, and I remember feeling in my chest like, oh my god, like, that's me. That's who I am. And I did my research to try to find people like that, and when I came across the term transgender at the time, I saw a lot of people who were really masculine and they were trans. There weren't a lot of feminine trans guys out there openly, I guess. And I didn't exactly know if it was me because I knew I wasn't completely masculine. I knew I wasn't totally all macho dude. So I thought maybe I'm just agender or non-binary or something else. And so I would go back and forth again between non-binary, between agender, between gender fluid, between cis, and then changing my sexualities. It took me a long time and a lot of different labels to figure out that I was a trans guy that was gay. Being yourself is hard, but when I realized that I was a boy, it became really easy for me to figure out how I wanted to look and how I wanted to dress and present myself. Initially, it was hard just because I thought I couldn't be trans if I was a little feminine, because then people wouldn't take me seriously. And that's one of my problems with making this video is, although now there are more feminine trans guys out there, there's even guys that wear skirts and makeup and they don't even care. It's still kind of in my head that people won't take me seriously, including my family, if I am feminine and do like boys, because I remember people would say nasty things like, well, if you're trans and you like guys, why don't you just stay a girl? It'll be much easier. And I just thought to myself, what the fuck, that doesn't even make sense to me. In the 10th grade, second half of the year, April 2015, when I was homeschooled, because I got homeschooled October 2015, because I knew I was going to get bullied if I was trying to be myself, and I didn't know who I was. I was very depressed at the beginning of 10th grade, so I left school, and anxious. Left school, and went on this cycle again of trying to figure out who I was, and I then, in April, I just said, you know what, fuck this. I'm so tired of running from who I am. I was running from who I was for years, and I was tired. I was so exhausted. And I just surrendered. I said, you know what, this is who I am. I just have to face it. And so I did. I came out to my parents officially in April 2015. And the first time I came out to my parents was in the 9th grade. And I came out to them not being too knowledgeable on the subject or knowledgeable on where I fit in as a trans guy. I knew about it, but I was very aggressive about it. I said, you have to call me this, and you have to do this, and I need this, and I need guy clothes, like I need it right now. I was very ambitious and impatient with the process of transitioning, and I didn't really realize that it wasn't just you who's transitioning, it's your family as well. And so it definitely scared them. And my mom laughed, shook her head, and then later cried, and my dad didn't have a lot of understanding, and my brother didn't really know too much about it either. So that really scared me from being myself, because I didn't want to hurt my mother, I didn't want to hurt my family. I just wanted to be myself and have it be okay. And when I realized it really wasn't okay because it was this huge change, it was this huge deal, I again ran from identity and said, okay, let me compromise and be a people pleaser again and just do what everyone else wants me to do. And that in turn caused me to be depressed, and that's not good. In the 10th grade, in April, that's when I said, you know what, this is who I am. And I gave them my name, which is Elliot, and the pronouns, and I tried explaining it to them in a way that wasn't so ambitious, and trying to explain to them how I liked boys, and how I was gay, and how I was feminine and trans, and how that makes sense. And this time around, they didn't really put too much of a fight, but it did take a year for them to start calling me Elliot, because during my junior year, when I started dating Xavier, who is now my ex, but we're good friends now, and they realized that I was being really consistent with this, because this was who I was, and I wasn't having this weird phased thing as a male. I was just a male, and that's it. And they realized that I was happy that way, and they realized that it was who I am. And so that's when they started calling me Elliot more, when I tried to make it more of a point. But to this day, there's still slip-ups. To this day, there's still she, her, daughter, and all those things that make me very uncomfortable. But they have come a long way from where they were. Telling my friends wasn't that much of a big deal, because most of my friends were on the internet because I was homeschooled, and the people that I did know in real life were not judgmental people at all, and they just kind of accepted and was like, you know what, it's fine, like, I don't care. Whoop, I don't care, and that's how that went down. This year is definitely the year that I've really, really come to terms with it 100%, because before I would identify like that for a longer amount of time, but I still had the habit of running away from it, because it's uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable to explain yourself over and over, and to be really affected by the wrong pronouns and the wrong name. And I tried not to take it personally, but really I didn't want to be trans. Like, I wanted to be comfortable cis, so that I wouldn't have to go through people that will call me disgusting names just for being myself. Of course, nobody wants to choose that, but every time I tried, I went back to who I am, because you can't run from who you are. Michael says this a lot. At the end of the day, when your head lays back on your pillowcase, all you have is yourself, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to be in terms and come to terms with who you are, and the people that you live for will not come with you when you die, so you have to live for yourself. It took me a long time to figure that out. It was a long process, but now that I'm here, and I'm going to be transitioning soon, like this summer soon, which is so weird, going through the next stage of everything, of it all, and finally not being preteen, and finally actually getting things done, because I'm 18 now, it feels really, really good. I'm proud of myself for how far I've come, especially when it comes to identity, because I was so reluctant to accept myself and running for myself for so long. When you're actually finally here and okay with yourself, it is so good. So to anyone out there that is confused or doesn't know who they are or can't figure it out, you might not be a stereotype, and that's okay. If you're trans and you feel like you're a male, and you are a male, and you want to wear nail polish, wear the fucking nail polish, because you are a man, and men wear nail polish, men wear makeup, men do feminine things. I don't do those things, but men do, and that's okay. You know, just be yourself, because holy shit, life is way too short to live for someone else. So happy Pride Month, and I will definitely see you next week on Our Remains. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm gay, I like boys, that was pretty easy to figure out. Boys are so cute. I will see you soon. Goodbye.